wonderful journey and welcome. Glad you could join us always. And we're listening to that vibration of the universe, about the toing and froing of life, the excitement ahead, and also things that have happened in the past. Are they dissolving? Are they misting away? And it's about moving forward. Or really, is it about moving forward? Is it about just remembering that you have a better version of yourself? Rather than thinking of life as discrepancies, you're looking for a better version of yourself. That doesn't mean that there's a discrepancy. What it actually means is that you have an innate knowing, an innate information, which is your knowing that your blueprint is the plan, is the map for you. And when there's that little bit of discrepancy, if you'd like to call it that, between where you are and where you'd like to be, it is just that there's some catching up to do. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. And as we've mentioned in the past, contrasts are a great asset to have to bring you back in line to that and bring you back into line of bringing yourself up to in line with the respect that you deserve of yourself. And by respecting yourself more, and sometimes you can do that on a scale of 1 to 10. Where are you on your respect scale? And if there's a difference between 10 and where you are, then it means that there is some more work to be done. And that's what's showing up on your blueprint, and there's some more work to be done. And that leads us into discussing, with respect, worthiness. And worthiness is one of those things that is elevated as well when you're in that position of respecting yourself and having a true connection with yourself and your higher self, to that cosmic consciousness of yourself. And that brings you up and up and up as far as energy goes, and vibration and resonance. And as you're resonating with the tune of the universe, then that discrepancy gap closes. And therefore, your worthiness, whether that's worthiness towards yourself, respecting yourself, worthiness in the community, where do you stand? And it's about thinking about, more feeling about where you stand as in respect to yourself and to others. But the most important factor here, the most important person in this particular equation is yourself. It's getting on that emotional elevator and moving it up and moving. One of the parts of the map, the magically amplified purpose, is changing your language so that it resonates with the highest respect for yourself and the highest worthiness for yourself. Things like love and guidance, enthusiasm, harmony, bliss, eagerness for more, optimism. And when they become part of your natural language, as opposed to conjuring up what has been your normal language, bliss, harmony, love, and guidance is just a natural part of your being. So it's about elevating yourself into that space where purpose, your passionate purpose, is inevitable. And that all comes into like this huge equation, like this huge jigsaw puzzle, that your respect for yourself is up, the worthiness. And usually if you look around, there's an indicator of your world of worthiness in, let's call it, some people call it the clutter of life. The possessions you have, do they make you feel light? Are they holding you back into the past, or the heaviness of the past? What you want is the lightness. And we were very fortunate and grateful to have a conversation with one of Alan's clients during the week about the worthiness and the clutter in their lives and the association. And the message was to remove the clutter from your life. And that's a huge task for a lot of people, the clutter. It may not be, in their perspective, there is no clutter in their life, but if they look at it closely with a universal, a higher mind, they realize that there's this cluster of clutter that needs to be removed or thinned out. And the message there was to do it a piece at a time and watch the light come into your life and the lightness come into your life. And therefore you're elevating your worthiness to show not only to yourself but to the world. And it was just an interesting conversation, and they came back with a great deal of thanks to Alan and with Whitehawk channeling that particular message. And we were so fortunate and grateful to have somebody to take on that information that we were able to give to them. And whether they do or not, it is of no relevance to us as a universal collective consciousness, but it is a great, great expansion for themselves and with everybody. And that must be the questions and the conversations in the universe as we're listening to what is going on, and about looking at the end of it, when there's that lightness, excitement, enthusiasm, eager for more. And we love that conversation, and it's been said before about, we're looking at expanding. Everybody's looking at expanding to that better version of themselves. That's no indicator that there's a deficiency there. All it means, and we'll reiterate this, about if you're happy in the now, but eager for more. So it's about elevating that happiness, that blissfulness, that love and enthusiasm for life as it is at the moment. But looking, and when there's an eagerness for more, you realize that your blueprint has it all mapped out for you. And there's an excitement in just that exercise to be a greater version of yourself, that expansion, and to tap into that resonance of the cosmos, that pulse. And if it's in tune with that, and you feel that in every cell in your body, and it reflects in the people around you, it reflects in the things you do, it reflects in the things that you don't want to do as well. And they're the messages to yourself on a very simplistic, universal, healing energy level. And hopefully that resonates with you on some sort of level. Because this has been the communication and the conversation over the last week or so, and we thought it was an important message to get out as a platform of moving forward. Do you have any questions on that, or some insights? And as we move forward in this, it just makes life easier. And as we've spoken about before, the resonance of your purpose, that vibration, fueled with the passion that you have for that particular thing you want to do, and acting upon your inspired thought, upon that inspired conversation that you've had. And that means something different to every single person on this planet.
I have a question, Whitehawk. Is clutter, I don't have a lot of clutter in my personal life, as in my things. I've never been a clutter person. So is clutter, we're talking about in the physical sense or something else? I certainly have a lot of thoughts, and that's probably clutter.
Indeed, that's where it comes from. And the clutter, the physical clutter, whether it's old stuff, clutter. Everybody has an understanding of what the physical clutter is, but that is a manifestation of the mental and emotional clutter that has been swept into your corner, so to speak, over the years, and it becomes familiar, and it becomes we're searching for a word there, but it becomes familiar, and it's a cornerstone of, maybe it's a definition of who you are, that you have these things, and to lots of people it may not be clutter, but it is about hanging on to things. But the physical clutter is certainly a manifestation, and the physical manifestation isn't necessarily the end result of everybody's clutter, but certainly the mental and emotional clutter from the past, the memories, the viewpoints, the platforms from which you launch yourself in conversations and decision making, and it can be that clutter in your mind and your emotions that cloud, that flavor your decision making, whether it's fast moving or it's clogged. A lot of times, if it's emotional clutter, it's a mental clutter. There's um, there's there's hindrances in moving forward. If you find that you're asking the question, let's move forward, let's do these things, and then you come up with 1,000 different questions, and those questions usually are based on the emotional roller coaster of clutter that has been your past up until this particular time. But in acknowledging that has brought you to where you are at this particular time, and the eagerness for something better than what's happened in the past. So yes, clutter is more of a mental state and can manifest itself in the physical world and definitely in the emotional world.
So how do we then clear that clutter? Because it sounds like you're talking about old patterns as well. So
Old
how do we clear these?
The initial thing is to acknowledge and to embrace. They have obviously been an asset in the past for coping, but when they get to a point of hindrance, then that clutter needs to be vaporized, to be minimized, to be let go. And I'm sure that emotional and mental clutter really wants to be let go into the universe. Doesn't want to be hanging around, situations that are earthly. And it's something that we hadn't really spoken about before, but it's acknowledging it first and then doing something about it, maybe playing that conversation, those incidences that has brought about that mental and emotional clutter from the past, so old patterns, and to be able to deal with them. And sometimes it's not about getting rid of them, but it's about expanding where you are at the moment so it minimizes the impact of the past patterns.
Yeah, so this is a process of release you're talking about, but rather than focus on what we don't want, we focus on what we do want. Is that what you're saying?
What we do want, and that expansion of what is true to yourself, to your higher self, and therefore it minimizes the impact of past patterns. And that gives you that platform for potential of greatness, the potentiality of greatness, if you can maximize your expansion in the now, and that's coupled with your knowing rather than the knowledge of the past. It is expanding the now into that better version of yourself based on your blueprint. And as we said before, it's not a deficiency. It is just or a discrepancy from that there's something missing. Everything's perfect and is in divine order at this particular time. But when there's a movement forward and you understand that there's a greater version of yourself, it is just saying that there's some more amazing, positive, optimistic, enthusiastic work to be done to move into that space And that can be done through connecting with like-minded people, embarking on a vocation that is uplifting not only to yourself but to those people around you. That heartfelt energy, that guidance forward, so that you can be that better version of yourself.
How do you know that you're going in the right direction? Because sometimes these patterns are so prevalent that they can take you in a direction that's familiar.
Those past patterns will certainly be prevalent. They will pepper your life, and that's an understanding. That's a human thing that will be peppered through your life, if you like. There will be speckles of the past that will come and go. Um, the higher your vibration is, the least amount of impact there will be on the current situation of energy. Understand that the past is the past, and we bring that to your attention in the fact that it becomes minimized when you are tapping into that greater version of yourself, to the cosmic consciousness of your higher self, and opening those doors and windows of that cosmic corridor of consciousness, so that there are greater adventures to have in that higher level of consciousness and energy, and tapping into the information of the universe, and it's shining that light so that you can move forward and into the lightness and the light of your future. And as we've said in the past, in that light, as it's shining, and particularly when we're talking about clutter, as you remove those past patterns, that clutter, that mental and emotional clutter, that opens up the window to shine, or the doorway to shine a greater light going forward, to move forward, onwards and upwards, to in that ease and flow, into the gracefulness of ease and flow, rather than trying to paddle upstream that is wearing you out, and you're tapping into old patterns when that is happening. It's about going with the flow, and it's graceful. It is fluid. It is opening up those channels that are feeding oneself with the flavors, the colors of a greater version of yourself. You want to ladle your current self, which is in divine order, with those flavors and patterns and aromas of that greater version of yourself. It's like walking out in the morning and breathing in that first morning dew, that air, the sunlight, to energize every cell of your body. And that's the physical side of it, that you're tapping into that universal healing energy to heal yourself. And you need to be in a place, a physical place, and it can be anywhere. You can be in the desert, you can be in the snow, you could be under a tree, you could be on a mountain. But taking in that breath and knowing that you are taking in that cosmic energy that is all around you, but having that mind space, that emotional space, that where you have that knowing that it is permeating every cell in your body, so that it gives a spring to your step, a sparkle in your eye, no matter what.
Hello, Whitehawk. And so you talked about language as one of the mirrors or ways to see what we're thinking, what we're feeling about ourselves. But if we're holding on to patterns that become our norm, our cornerstones, then discomfort can become a friend, Because does discomfort then show us that we're not in alignment, to then allow ourselves in whatever way it can be that we find that to be bigger, to dissipate the pattern without working on it or sitting in it, but just to somehow become higher resonance, high frequency, to then consciously dissipate that discomfort, not necessarily needing to know what the pattern is or whether it's cellular or DNA or past life, whatever, or this life, whatever's not working for us creates discomfort. So would that be another tool to use as well as language?
Correct. Discomfort, acknowledging the familiarity of that discomfort is an amazing tool to have. A lot of people are uncomfortable with their lives, with their situations, many situations, whether it's relationships, job, harmony, vehicles, it doesn't really matter. There's a discomfort there. But they have an understanding, and it's familiar, that that is normal. It's not natural, but it is normal. But it is certainly a tool if in acknowledging that discomfort and that lack of higher resonance is certainly a tool, an asset to acknowledge that some more work to be done. And the greatest thing about it is get creative with that dissolving or minimizing the discomfort and the unease that you might have with a particular situation. It may feel normal, whether it's through relationships or jobs or plethora of different situations. But yes, it is a great tool. And in there, and as you mentioned about the language, it is changing that language. And sometimes language takes you back to those old patterns of discomfort. There are words you may use in a situation or whether it's a meeting or a loved one or a colleague, or there is in the communication of language, there's a realization, and this is one of the big assets, the realization that you have gone into that situation of old patterns that are uncomfortable. And now they don't have to be dealt with straight away, but through that acknowledgement that doesn't make me comfortable anymore. It's about moving forward, moving into that greater version of yourself. And all earthly humans have some sort of patterns going on that in two circumstances, it's uncomfortable and they are unaware of it. It's uncomfortable and they are aware. And in awareness comes greater growth, great conversation.
So do you need to build an awareness first, do you?
Yes, it's a training. It's even, if you think about learning something new, it can even be going to the dictionary or the thesaurus to find new words to expand the language, and have a situation in a day or a conversation that you might have with somebody, or even have a conversation with yourself about your greater version of yourself, in finding other words, and that then ignites another pathway in your brain to acknowledge that there are better versions of yourself when you're looking at harmony, bliss, love, and guidance, enthusiasm, eagerness. Are there other words that can be used to describe some of those or something similar? Yes. That's it. Even doing it on a physical level. But if you sit there and contemplate and meditate on that greater version of yourself, those words and those phrases will come out. And isn't it great when you use them in situations that make people perk up and listen? Because if it's been the same old conversation that you've had in the past with friends, relatives, colleagues, connections that you have, they can almost repeat or have an understanding of what you're saying before you even say it, but come up with a few different descriptions of that, not to confuse or bamboozle, but to elevate the energy of what you're talking about. As we said, the bliss, the harmony, the eagerness, it is finding new words and phrases and ways to put that across.
So language is very important then, is that what you're saying? Because I know when Alan used to say particular words and I would say to him, well, you probably shouldn't be saying that. And he'd say, oh, well, they're just words.
Language is the manifestation of the emotional and mental state. And they are important. Yes. It's a bit like acting upon your inspired thought, but even acting upon your inspired language, and be inspired by the new language that you have. Be inspired by that, and that is an elevation in energy, in this universal healing energy. It is just that elevation of speech, of connection, not only with oneself, and this is the big thing, is acknowledging when you uncover that better word, that better language, that better phrase. Like there's I've just learned a new word and brush it off as if it's something new, but not that exciting. And it's through that acknowledgement and that knowing that that new pathway has been built within your being to elevate that energy level, to take you from where you are to where you want to be. And it's that expansion, and it's even learning new stuff, whether it's learning a new musical instrument, learning a new trade or vocation, learning how to knit or ride a bicycle or tie up your shoelaces. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's finding the joy and the excitement and acknowledging it. And it is finding the joy and excitement, but acknowledging that this has been a great move forward in acknowledging that you're able to do these new things, or even try them, or even think about it. It's the greater version of yourself that is shining that light for you to expand on an endless, ongoing basis. So words are powerful.
So we become word weavers, and the energetics of the words.
Yes.
Create.
The word weavers, I love that. Be the conjurer of a conscious cosmic conversation.
Yes, and creating a new energy around yourself that flows from inside you to energetically shift not just yourself but the environment that you're in. So the words become the harmonics. So we'll be word weavers. Okay.
Word weavers. And there's a vibration in the word or part of the word. Even thinking that word, there is a vibration. Yes. And it changes the atmosphere around you, your auric field. When you elevate that self-talk, walking down the pathway, walking down the street, you'll be wondering why people are smiling and nodding and acknowledging you for no particular reason other than they can't quantify it or qualify it, but your energy has been elevated through the magic of that conversation and conjuring that woven, that pattern. You're creating a pattern of cosmic conversations with yourself and with those people that you love and are in connection with. Yes, that is powerful. And through that weaving of a great cosmic conversation, then that elevates your worthiness of yourself. And so you're creating a great cosmic conversation with words that are all about the same thing. And it's about elevating the spirit and then minimizing the words and therefore the emotion and the mentality of those things that are dark and bringing you down, the energy down. So it's about elevating that energy, tapping into that cosmic consciousness so that you are lighter, you feel like you are shining more, and you are being noticed for that.
So
And
not only our words, but our thoughts then have a language as well.
yes. So when you couple your thoughts plus the language, it creates the emotion. Then you add the situation. So it's this melting pot, this magical pot. You're stirring in your magical thoughts, that mental side of it, the physical words you use, the situation in which you use those words. Even sitting in your lounge room, rather than using your words to judge or have an opinion, you are using the words as an observation solely. Now you can have a judgment and opinion in a positive, uplifting, spiritual way. But a lot of people will view a situation and have words similar to, let's say, she looks like a bag lady in that $4,000 dress. Why would she do that? That's an opinion and a judgment, and it's not very worthwhile and it's not uplifting. But if you can look at that same situation and acknowledge the craftsmanship, how it's hanging on that person, how the dress is there, you are the observer, sheerly because you're observing rather than having to have an opinion or a judgment. Like we said, you can have an opinion or a judgment on it, or an opinion in an uplifting way. To be safe, it is just an observation. And those words, situations, the conversations that you have with yourself add up to the emotionality of the situation. Again, it's like a jigsaw coming together. You've got pieces of this jigsaw, you put it all together, and you don't have to think about it. It's not something that you have to learn. It is in your knowing. It is part of your collective consciousness. It is our collective consciousness of that. And we're guiding that. We're having that conversation all the time. There are questions being asked. And with Alan in particular, he can be driving somewhere and blocks of thought come in. And they are magical. Just simple words and phrases. But with everybody doing that, they're elevating their energy, their situation, so that they are a benefit and a major contributor in a positive way to their surroundings. What a great humanitarian effort it is to elevate everybody around you, even a 1% or 1% world, even to make them feel better. And a lot of people have conversations, whether it's about politics or the way of the world, the things, wars and things that are going on. So sometimes I know Alan doesn't have those conversations because he doesn't read the news, but certainly people will have that conversation with him, but it's easily redirected into something more positive, because that is the way to feel better at the end of the day. And you know yourself how your energy level feels if you've been tapping into those conversations, those words that are part of somebody's reality, and you know if you've actually tapped into them at the end of your day, and you feel a little bit less energized. So the whole idea of your day, of your being, of your continuing journey is to have that energy to be at least level, if not rising incrementally as you tap into that greater version of yourself. And
Nigel, can I ask a question? Sometimes, when, like yesterday, I had a great day, everything was wonderful. I was in the space of things were really working out for me. And then this morning, I wake up and I'm feeling very, oh, insecure, the opposite to yesterday, really. And I just wonder how that happens. How do I get so just hit by that?
sidetracked, yes. And so it is tapping into what we were talking about before, old patterns. And they are still around. They will speckle. They're like specks of dirt that will stick at times when you're not ready. And it is important first thing in the morning. And you've said, and we've said many times, it's about having that conscious conversation with the universe, with yourself in a meditative state to start the day off. And it's very easy for those little specks of negativity and past patterns to expand, to get a little bit sticky, if you like. And it's about starting the day with the magical color of your better version of yourself. It is about having a new pattern to wake up to.
Can you
And
give us an example?
well, it's about being in a meditative state and have something in particular to think about. Now, it could be a puppy, a grandchild, a small child, a time in your life that was, no matter what is going on at the moment, in the past, in the future, that your heart is elevated every time you bring that thought into being in your mind. And in reality, you are there. You are there. There is a magical time, physically, mentally, emotionally, vibrationally. There is no shifting away from the fact that that particular thought in that state, and it's best to get to this particular state before other thoughts come in and piggyback themselves onto those sticky bits of past thoughts. And so it is thinking of that situation that is vibrationally optimal for you. And whether you've got it written on a piece of paper, you have it on your phone, or you set it up the night before, that when you awake in the morning, when the sun is rising, whatever time you get up, that will be the first thought of the day. Seems simple, but it's very powerful. A lot of people start the day with a cigarette and a coffee and they listen to the news. From our perspective, that doesn't seem to be a good way to start. And I know most people don't start that way, but if you think of that consciousness of just those three things, it is heavy, it's dark, it's pudgy. You want something light and fluffy, energetic, fireworks, sparkling to start your day. So that there's a platform when these specks of past hindrances come in, that they are minimized or pushed to the side. And like I said, they're going to be there. And it's being aware that they're going to be there. But it's about moving into that greater version of yourself so that you expand, so that you are that version of yourself that is directing play. So imagine that version of yourself that you want to be. What is that first thought in the morning? What is that first hour of the morning? How is that going? That better version of yourself. And obviously there's been a bit of slippage for you to have a fantastic day. It is going great and wonderful. The sun is shining. The birds are chirping. But then all of a sudden you hit a sticky spot. But ask that question of yourself. What vibration would my higher self be in that particular situation? And that will elevate. That will hopefully minimize those past patterns that have been lying around dormant, and some have been dormant for decades. That come up and sometimes it can be conjured, can be elevated just through a noise, a smell, a situation, a memory. So rather than concentrate on that, look at, feel what that greater version of yourself would feel like in that situation. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions?
This has been
Suzanne does, if Suzanne would like to ask a question.
Thank you. It's not really a question, just to kind of go back to what you first started talking about with self-worth, just because I had a huge opportunity present itself to me this week, and my first reaction was to like hold all this resistance, like, well, I'm not that, and how am I going to fit into your box, and but then, because I meditate every night, as I'm going to sleep every night, since I got this opportunity, I've had all these ideas come into my head of how I could fill that. So I'm like, this morning, I'm ready to accept the proposal that was given to me, and I'm still have a little bit of resistance there. So I like had to reword, and I'm like, no, don't set yourself with limitations here. Just accept it. And that's what I did in the end. But it took me quite a bit I had to fight with myself to get there.
And isn't it like saying yes more often?
Mm-hmm.
And then the details will follow. We'll fill in. And that is exactly what we're talking about, that most humans have a worthiness challenge, a respect challenge, particularly for themselves. But it is when these opportunities come up, it's about saying yes more often, and then work it out from there. And by the time you've worked it out and you've stepped into that role, there's a thought about, why was I even thinking any less of myself in the beginning anyway? So it's about, our simple message is saying yes more often to opportunities. And if that opportunity comes about, it's meant to be. And then everything else, the gaps, if there are any, will fill in. And that's leaving it up to the universe. That's the how. You've got to say yes to the opportunity. The how will take care of itself. The when, why, all those questions, as you know, the how is the hardest thing. A lot of people try to work out the how, but the how will just literally magically manifest itself. Yes, that's a great acknowledgement. It's really wonderful. Sounds like a great opportunity. And we'd like to take the opportunity to say thank you Thank you for the energy, the conversation, the words, the vibration, the resonance. We can feel the vibration at this particular point in time. You just feel that vibration. It is very subtle and it's in tune with the universe. And we appreciate that. And we understand the great love and guidance that you have. We understand the great guidance and love that we have for you. And acknowledge that everything is in divine order. Have that understanding. And forward with gracefulness, understanding, love and guidance, bliss. Life is so much lighter when that happens. Thank you. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to know more about the wisdom of Whitehawk, you can go to www.wisdomofwhitehawk.com. Thanks for joining us.